Caravengers, assemble for my second deck guide on Marvel Snap. In this video, I want to show you my Pool 2 deck, which I call Fantastic Iron, and just like my Pool 1 deck, it's off-meta and very deceptive to mostly get 8 cubes of our opponents, and I was able to climb consistently to rank infinite, just like my last deck. Here, for example, it's 102 during the Silver Surfer season, and the season is still going for almost 3 weeks, so we still have more than enough time to keep climbing. As you can see here, I am still following my own strategy of holding on to a pool before I enter the next pool. And I do this for 2 reasons. Reason 1 is I want to test my deck so I can make sure it works before I show it to you. And the second reason is I am saving the maximum amount of credits. Last season it was only 5,000 credits you could save up. This season it's up to 10,000 credits we can save up. So as soon as I hit 10,000 credits, I will start my live streams on Twitch TV, and then we will spend all the credits to unlock as many cards as possible, so we can have a good start into Pool 3, and this is where our journey begins together. Also, just like in my last video, of course, you can find additional information like statistics or my decks and cards in the video description, so just take a look there. And if you have any questions, constructive criticism or tips and tricks, feel free to leave a comment in the section below, because I will read every single comment and I will also reply to every single question you have. And I believe in helping each other and learning from each other, because I want our great community to become even better and even stronger. And I am very sure that everyone who reads your comment after you will be happy about even more help and even more information. Alright guys, so as far as I know, Pool 1 and Pool 2 differ greatly from Pool 3, in a way that there will be no new cards added in the future to Pool 1 or Pool 2, which means that the meta in those pools will always be the same. And for that reason, it's easy to read and understand the meta and build a counter against the meta. So now you might ask, why counter the meta when it's so easy to just play the meta? And this is a very good question. I personally don't like to play meta decks for 2 reasons. Reason 1 is, if you play a meta deck, there's of course a high chance that you end up in a mirror match where your opponent is playing the same deck, and I don't have fun playing this. And second, if you play a meta deck, it's easy for your opponent to read you. So they know exactly what cards you are playing, and they can concede early if they see themselves in a disadvantage, and this is what we don't want. We want our opponent to feel safe. We want our opponent to not be able to read us and to snap early, so we can counter snap and get the 8 cubes, because that's how we rank up. So for that reason, I created my deck called Fantastic Iron, and it consists of Iceman, Nova, Bucky Barnes, Carnage, Scorpion, Cloak, Mr. Fantastic, Killmonger, Hulkbuster, Deathlok, Namor and Iron Man. And I use the website snap.fan to track my matches, because I want to make sure that the deck is actually successful and representative for you to use before I make a video. And here are the stats. We played 119, almost 120 matches and won 57% of them and lost only 42%. And the thing is, it's not only about winning or losing. Of course, winning is fun and losing sucks, but it's about the net cubes and the average cube rate. The higher the average cube rate is, the more, I would say, deceptive this deck is. And as you can see here on the stats, we usually gain much more cubes than we lose. Of course, there are matches where we lose, like most of the matches I conceded. The art of conceding is very, very important in this game, but sometimes we just lose because I was trying and seeing if I have a chance. The most important thing though is that we get many of those 8 cubers or 4 cubes, you see? And this is very important. This gives us a very high average cube rate, and this is what this deck is all about. Alright, so let's talk about our win conditions, of which we actually have 3, and also basic strategies, because you can become very creative with this deck. And the first win condition I want to talk about is actually Namor. He is a 4-drop with 5 power, which is basically pretty bad, but if he's alone in his location, then he gets plus 5 power. And this is very strong, so he becomes a 4-drop with 10 power. Obviously, his weaknesses are Shang-Chi, who can destroy any cards at one location with 9 power or more, or Enchantress, who can disable our ongoing effect. But Enchantress is actually not that common in Pool 2, so we rarely have to fear Enchantress. Only Shang-Chi, but our opponent has to decide if they want to play Shang-Chi and contest the Namor lane, or if they just leave it. And usually they just leave it, because a 4-10 is very hard to contest, so they usually just leave Namor alone and we win the lane just by Namor existing. And if they try to contest it, it's also alright, because we have 2 more win conditions. The basic idea here is to build up a lot of tempo and a lot of pressure in one lane just with one 4-drop, and it's also good to have a card like this, a single card that's very strong, because there are locations where you profit from a single card that's very strong. Let's leave it at that for now and talk about our second win condition, which is obviously Iron Man. And even though he is a 5-drop, we usually play him in turn 6 as our big surprise. He by himself has 0 power, but his ongoing reads your total power is doubled at this location. And this is very strong, because he generates a lot of power without being susceptible to Shang-Chi. And even though he's susceptible to Enchantress, first of all, Enchantress, as I told you before, isn't very common in Pool 2, at least not in my experience. And also, our opponent usually don't expect Iron Man to be played in this deck, so they don't hold on to their Enchantress for the last turn. They have their own agenda, they have their own plans, and want to play their own cards in turn 6, maybe even Shang-Chi to counter our Namor, so they don't expect our Iron Man here. Our third win condition consists of 3 parts: scaling, control, and deception, of course. All 3 parts are equally important, but let's talk about scaling first. For scaling purposes, we have Nova here, who is a 1-drop with 2 power, but when destroyed he gives +1 power to every other card we control. Then we have Bucky Barnes, who is a 2-drop with only 1 power, but when he is destroyed, he becomes the Winter Soldier with 6 power. And so we just need to destroy those 2 cards to trigger their strong effects. And to destroy them, we have Deathlok, who on reveal destroys all our other cards at this location, which usually is a disadvantage, but we make an advantage out of this when we play him in the same lane where there's already Nova and or Bucky Barnes to trigger their effects. Then we also have Carnage, who is a 2-drop with 2 power, but he gets +2 power for each destroyed card by him. So when we play him in a location where there are already 3 cards, he destroys all 3 of them, then he gets potentially +6 power, so he can potentially be a 2/8 card. This is a lot of scaling. And then we also have Mr. Fantastic, who empowers adjacent locations by +2, so if we play him in the mid lane, in the mid location for example, he will give +2 power to the left and to the right location as well. And last but not least, we have the Hulkbuster, who is a 3-drop with 4 power, and if you play him alone in a lane, he is just a 3-drop with 4 power card. But if you play him in a lane or in a location where there is already a revealed card, then he will merge with this card and he will disappear but give his power to this card. And this is very, very strong, because you can use it for so many creative plays. For example, you can use him to empower Namor, obviously. So he merges with Namor, he disappears, and Namor gets his +4 power, but is still alone in his lane, so you can still profit from his ongoing effect. Also, Namor will be passively buffed by Mr. Fantastic and Nova. But the real reason why I love this card so much is because of the plays you can make just by using this one 3-drop. And let's say, for example, you are in Shuri's lab, where when you play a card there, the power gets doubled, okay? So you, for example, already have a Carnage there with 10 power. And then you play Hulkbuster and it merges with the Carnage. So the Carnage becomes a 14 power. But then this power becomes doubled again. And this is very strong. It's also true for locations like the cloning vats or Sinister London. So, for example, when there's Sinister London and you have a card there, and Sinister London says when you play a card in Sinister London, you copy this card to a random location. And when you play the Hulkbuster and it merges with a card, then this merged card will be copied to a random location. So you get a lot of value out of just this one card, especially when there are locations that double the strength of a card or copy a card. The second aspect is, of course, control. And for control, we have very strong cards which are not only viable in Pool 2, but still extremely viable in Pool 3. So one of them is Iceman. He is a 1-drop with 2 power, and his on-reveal says, give a random card in your opponent's hand plus 1 cost. It doesn't sound like much, but this effect alone wins entire games for us. Because imagine your opponent has a 5-drop and a 6-drop in their hands, and they want to play the 5-drop and combo it into the 6-drop. Now, you give the 5-drop plus 1 cost, so it becomes a 6-drop, and now suddenly our opponent doesn't have a 5-drop anymore, but 2 6-drops, and has to decide which of those they want to play. And this is so strong. It can lose them games and can win us games. So that's why he's not only one of the best cards in Pool 2, but also one of the best cards still in Pool 3. Then one of the best 2-drops, even in Pool 3, is Scorpion. He's a 2-drop with 2 power, which is not very strong, but he passively generates a lot more power than you think, because on reveal, afflict cards in your opponent's hand with -1 power. It's very strong. And also, both cards, Scorpion and Iceman, work very well with the location Kamar Touch, which enables, which reads that on-reveal effects are activated twice. So imagine you play Scorpion and you weaken 4 cards of your opponents by -1, and then a second time. Or, for example, Iceman. And not only that, you can even use them in cloning vats and also Sinister London and combine this with, like, for example, Deathlok or even Carnage. Imagine playing cards like Iceman, Nova, Scorpion in Sinister London or cloning vats and spamming those cards' effects, and then your board is full for Carnage to eat them and become extremely strong. So those are combos you can do. You can give your opponents almost infinite energy cost and lower almost infinite their power, and then eat them all with Carnage and make him almost infinitely strong. It's just so fun to play around, guys. So the last 2 cards we still need to talk about are Cloak and also Killmonger. And Cloak is a card I love always. He is very, very cool and very strong. He gives us so much flexibility. For example, we, in turn 1, first location is revealed. In turn 2, second location is revealed. And in turn 3, the third location is revealed. Usually, I play my 1-drops in the third location in turn 1. And in turn 2, I play Cloak in the mid location. So when the third location is revealed and 1-drop is in a bad spot, then I have this effect. On reveal, next turn, both players can move cards to this location. So when Cloak is in the middle and I played my 1-drop in the right and the right reveals and is a bad spot for my 1-drop, then I can pull them to the mid. And also, when, like for example, Central Park is revealed, then we get a squirrel to every location. And Namor suddenly is not alone anymore. And so we can play Cloak, for example, and then pull the squirrel over to our location where Cloak is, and Namor is alone again. Also, for a similar reason, we lose Killmonger, and obviously for all the other reasons, like on reveal, destroy all 1-cost cards. That affects our 1-cost cards and of course the opponent 1-cost cards. So we would lose Iceman and Nova. Those are the only 1-cost cards we have, and usually I play Killmonger to trigger Nova, and if we lose Iceman, it doesn't really matter. Most of the time I eat Iceman with Carnage, so he doesn't exist by this moment anymore. But the most important part is here that even in Pool 2 there are still many Zoo decks, like Khazar, Blue Marvel, and Squirrel Girl, Ant-Man, all those cards that spam you with 1-drops. And they scale up infinitely, so you just play one Killmonger and get rid of all of them. So he's definitely one of the best cards even in Pool 3, so you can use him for a long time. Like Nova, Iceman, Scorpion, Carnage, Killmonger, those are cards you can easily use in Pool 3 for a very long time in so many decks. And so this is why they are here. Cloak, because obvious reasons, he is cheap, he is strong, and he gives us control in moving our cards away. And Killmonger, for obvious reasons, he destroys all 1 cards on the field, which counters many meta decks, which still consist of many Zoo cards. And also he can trigger our Nova, and he can free the lane for Namor, for example. So Namor is not alone, is alone again, and not in a lane with those squirrels. Alright, to wrap it up, I prepared a match I want to show you in which we see how we play our cards in a, let's say, standard way, and also how flexible we are with some of our cards. So the first location that gets revealed is Luke's bar, where we can't play cards because they will get returned to our hands. So we just skip the first turn and see what the second turn is. We don't have any 1-drops to play. Usually, I told you I play my 1-drops to the right location, but it wasn't possible. We got Sakard, so we have to play a card in the mid location. Our Bucky Barnes was called and our opponent's Shang-Chi was called. It doesn't really matter because we don't play any strong cards except for Namor, but he will not be shown in this clip. It doesn't matter. So we play for the mid location, and as you can see, the right location is Lechugia, and we don't want to play any cards there because we will get rocks shuffled into our deck. But we played Deathlok to trigger our Bucky Barnes, and you can see how much power we generated suddenly in this mid location. Then we play our Mr. Fantastic because he is part of our Fantastic Iron name, and he secures our Luke's bar. And this is very important. That's the reason why I played Mr. Fantastic here. Then what I can do is here, for example, use my Scorpion in a very creative way to use it in Luke's bar. But then I saw my opponent snap, and this is exactly what I want. I want my opponent to snap and feel safe early. So I was thinking here, we are winning Luke's bar and they can't really play cards here, but I can't really confirm it yet because it's turn 5. So if they don't play, like for example a Nightcrawler or something like that, then we are pretty safe that Luke's bar is won for us. So what I do here is I use my Hulkbuster to buff any of my units in the mid lane, and this is the advantage of the Hulkbuster, that he disappears. So we have our Scorpion in the right to weaken our opponent's hand just in case it's important. And as you can see, we generated 4 extra power and still have a slot free in the mid lane. And this is the reason why or one of many reasons why I love the Hulkbuster so much. And then we can play as a big surprise Iron Man in the mid, because I know he played Moon Girl, and Moon Girl means he doubled his hands. So he probably has 2 dinosaurs in his hands, and that's why he said hello. I mean, we played before, so I know him. And so big shout out to Raketen-Ronny, which it's probably German, and I'm German too, so hey. So the thing is, he said hello, and he played Devil Dinosaur in the mid. I know he probably has one for the right, and he thinks he lost Luke's bar, and I lost the mid lane, so I have to contest the right. But what he doesn't know is that I still have my Iron Man, and he doesn't know this. And so I play Iron Man in the mid to double my power there, which should win us the match by bringing us to 34 power. Also, another trick I often do is I wait with my counter snap. You see, my opponent snapped early, but I don't want to counter snap immediately. I know I will win this, but I wait for the last second before I counter snap, and then I end my turn. I don't want my opponent to think twice and maybe retreat when they see that I counter snapped. So this is why I waited for the last second, then I counter snapped and locked in, so they can't retreat or can't think about retreating, and the final turn goes through, and as expected they play their Devil Dinosaur and also Agent 13 to power up their strength. But you see, our Iron Man in the last turn is what basically won us the game, and this is in a nutshell how we play this deck. So usually games go like this, right? You have the left location, which we are winning. You have the right location, which our opponent is winning. And then we have the mid location, which both sides are contesting. And the Luke's bar to the left was the location we won. And it's representative for maybe if I had Namor on my hand, I would have played Namor to the left to win this location, secure it with Namor and also Mr. Fantastic. In this case, it was Luke's bar and Mr. Fantastic. The right location was won by our opponent, of course, and the mid location was the location we contested and which we won through, for example, the combined power of Bucky, Deathlok, Mr. Fantastic, Hulkbuster, and of course Iron Man. So we had all our win conditions out, like Mr. Fantastic, Iron Man, and then those deceptive, control-y, scaling creatures, cards we play. And Namor wasn't there, but he's also part of the win condition, represented in this case by Luke's bar. Alright guys, that's it from me with this deck guide. This time I showed you only one entire match to explain in a basic way how to play this deck, but I also showed you many clips of how I used my cards in a creative way to outplay my opponent, especially in combination with certain locations, and it's just fun for me to use, and I hope you can also have some fun with this deck, or maybe at least I inspired you to build a similar deck. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, how you like the way I edited this video, like I used more clips and less matches. Maybe you want to see more matches and less clips in the future, and I will take this as constructive criticism to improve my content and of course my English. So this is one thing, and if you have any questions, tips and tricks and constructive criticism, as I told you, just write it down in the comments below. I will read every comment and I will reply to every question you have, and everyone who reads your comments after you will be happy to read this comment and my reply maybe. And also, if you want to have more, if you want to get more information about this deck or my statistics, my decks and cards, just look in the video description below. I usually put a lot of links and descriptions there, so you can find additional information in the description under this video. If you like what I do and you want to see more and support me, just leave a thumbs up, comments, subscription, you know the drill, and I will create much more content on this YouTube channel and also live stream in the future on Twitch TV. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you soon when the call is again Caravengers Assemble.